It was a heavy night, as if the sky itself was collapsing over the small town. The storm roared with tremendous fury, thunder echoing like cries of despair. The rain poured in torrents, drenching everything around, and the streets were completely deserted. On the porch of a simple house, a black and white cat sat, its fur wet and disheveled by the cutting wind. Its yellow eyes shone like beacons in the darkness, but it didn't make a sound, not a single meow. This cat, named Tito, had something peculiar. It never meowed. Not even as a kitten had it ever made a sound. The family that adopted him always thought this was part of his charm. He was a walking mystery, silent but always present. Tito followed his owner's every step like a protective shadow, a silent guardian. That night, however, something was different. Tito was motionless, staring fixedly at the stormy horizon. It was as if he sensed something that the humans around him could not understand. And when lightning lit up the sky, he did something unexpected. He stood up and ran down the porch steps, vanishing into the darkness of the rain. Tito had come to the family in an unusual way. He was just a kitten when he was found by the side of a rural road, curled up inside a cardboard box. His big, frightened eyes had won over Sophia, a 12-year-old girl who begged her father to take him home. Since then, Tito had become part of the family. Despite his quietness, he seemed to communicate in subtle ways, with glances, light touches, and even the way he curled up beside Sophia on cold nights. But he never, ever let out a meow. That stormy night, Sophia was restless. Tito never went out in the rain, and something about his sudden escape left her alarmed. She asked her father to go after the cat, but he tried to reassure her. "He'll come back, sweetheart. He always does." But Sophia couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. She opened the front door and shouted Tito's name, but her voice was swallowed by the thunder. Outside, the storm seemed fiercer than ever, and Tito was nowhere to be found. Hours passed, and Tito didn't return. Sophia was inconsolable, insisting that they needed to search for him. Finally, her father gave in, and the two ventured out with flashlights into the torrential rain. Each lightning strike lit up the surrounding field, but there was no sign of Tito. Then, a strange sound pierced through the storm's noise. A weak, drawn-out meow. Sophia stopped immediately, turning to her father. "Did you hear that?" she asked, her voice trembling. Her father nodded, incredulous. It was Tito. It couldn't be anything else. Following the sound, they arrived at an old tree that had fallen in the wind. Beneath its branches, Tito stood, soaking wet, motionless, over something small and still. As they approached, they realized it was a puppy, trapped and barely alive. Tito's meow, previously non-existent, was now an incessant, desperate call, as if he knew he needed to ask for help. Sophia and her father rushed to rescue the puppy, wrapping it in a towel while Tito followed them, trembling with cold. Back at the house, the family did everything they could to warm the tiny puppy. Tito, though exhausted, stayed by its side the entire time, gently licking it as if trying to comfort it. Sophia was fascinated. He knew the puppy needed him. That night, something strange happened. Tito, who had always been completely silent, began making low sounds, almost like purring, as he lay next to the puppy. It was as if he were caring for something very precious. But during the early hours of the morning, the puppy's condition worsened. Sophia and her father did everything they could, but they realized the little one was too weak. Before dawn, it took its last breath. That was when Tito, for the first time, let out a long, deep meow. The sound echoed through the house, laden with a sadness that seemed almost human. It was as if he were mourning the loss of the puppy he had so diligently tried to protect. After that night, Tito returned to being the silent cat he had always been, but something about him had changed. He spent more time near Sophia, always alert and watchful. The girl couldn't forget the sound of Tito's meow that night. It was as if he spoke, just for a moment, to tell us how he felt. She would say to her father, the little puppy was buried in the family's backyard, under Sophia's favorite tree. Tito often visited the spot, lying there silently. It became a ritual he seemed determined to perform, as if paying homage to the brief life he had tried to save. Over time, Tito became something of a local legend. The neighbors loved telling the story of the cat that never meowed, but broke his silence to save a life. He became a symbol of protection and unconditional love. Tito taught us that words or sounds aren't always necessary to show love. Sometimes, silent gestures can be more powerful than any shout. And when we do finally speak, our words or meows can carry a weight that changes everything around us. On that stormy night, Tito broke his silence to save a life. And even though the little puppy didn't survive, Tito's act was never forgotten. Because, in the end, it's not words that matter, but the acts of love we leave behind.